Yes guys, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix YouTube video. My name is FPL Nacho, and in this video we are looking at the top transfers going into Game Week 24. We are going to be discussing some of the big performers in Game Week 23 and whether you should be bringing them into your teams, as well as a few differentials that I really think could propel you up your mini league. So as always, if you are new around here, please do consider smashing that subscribe button and of course dropping a like on the video. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay, so first up, we have to talk about the hat-trick hero in Phil Foden, an unbelievable performance against Brentford. And in this video in particular, I want to take a look at his underlying numbers from Game Week 1 to Game Week 22 and Game Week 23 in isolation, because I don't think we ever associate Phil Foden with hat-tricks. So it was a little bit out of the blue for him to be racking up this amount of goals. Usually we're used to Erling Haaland doing that. So I just want to take a look at the underlying numbers. Obviously, Game Week 1 to 22 is a lot larger sample size. So Game Week 23 in isolation, we do need to take with a pinch of salt a little bit, but I think we can draw some conclusions. So for those that haven't checked out the touch heat map, I do recommend heading over to Fantasy Football Fix. We saw a very rare occasion where we had Haaland, De Bruyne, Phil Foden, all congested in central areas, with Bernardo Silva operating on the right flank and nobody playing left wing, with of course Rodri playing in that deep space. So it was very unusual to see Alvarez, Haaland, Foden and De Bruyne in central spaces. And taking a look at the touch heat map, we didn't really get an idea that Phil Foden was going to score a hat-trick. It was actually Kevin De Bruyne who was furthest forward of the four, which was quite a surprising thing to read. So based on the heat maps, if this game is something to judge off going forward and Pep does maybe utilise all four of these players, then this could be a really exciting time to own somebody like Phil Foden, who's only 7.9 million. Gavardia was basically playing as the left back and the left winger. They weren't really fussed about keeping anyone out on that touchline. So really interesting that we can get a situation where all three or four of these play in the same team and play in central areas. It's kind of the dream that we're looking for. And the reason why we want to talk about this is the game weeks coming up. Everton at home and then a double in Game Week 25. Now, can we trust Phil Foden? Well, the numbers so far this season between Game Weeks 1 and 22 have been decent. Not incredible. 0.27 XG per 90, 0.26 expected assists per 90. Solid numbers, but once again, when you compare that to what he done against Brentford, 0.67 expected goals per 90, I just need to ask myself, can he sustain those underlying numbers going forward if they do continue to play all four of these in central areas? The shots were up by miles 6 against Brentford compared to his average of 2.77. And of course, his expected FPL points were through the roof at 9.12. So the conclusion on Phil Foden, I definitely think he is an amazing option for your teams. I was worried that he was going to get pushed out to the right wing or the left wing. Now, if Pep continues with the vein that he did against Brentford, I can't see him moving Phil Foden out of these central areas. So I think that's good news for those that are maybe looking to buy Phil Foden going into the double game week. For me, I definitely would have Phil Foden over Julian Alvarez. I think the big question is Kevin De Bruyne worth the additional 2.5 million? I think Kevin De Bruyne is still the man to own over the next 3 game weeks, even though he is much more expensive. But off the back of this hat-trick and him playing in central areas, I think it's really difficult to ignore Phil Foden as an option into your teams. And if you don't have the cash for Kevin De Bruyne, I think Phil Foden is your man. I will just say, don't be expecting these underlying numbers or output every single game week. Historically, we haven't seen that from Phil Foden, but if he could build up that connection alongside Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne, I think regardless of whether Phil Foden returns, Man City are going to be in and amongst the goals over the next 4 or 5 game weeks, and you just want a piece of that attacking pie. So Foden is an amazing option for your FPL teams, and I wouldn't put anybody off going there going into this game week, especially looking at that touch heat map. So next up, we need to take a look at a player that doesn't double, or he actually has no game in Game Week 26, but still needs to be on our radars. So that man is going to be Richarlison, a player that I haven't owned this season and somebody that is killing me from an overall rank perspective. Now, it's really interesting with Richarlison because, as I mentioned with Man City, we need to start investing in them because they double in Game Week 25 and they play in game week 26, which of course is a blank game week. And also, if you didn't know, Liverpool double in game week 25. So we're obviously targeting Man City and Liverpool players. And looking at the fixtures coming up for both Richarlison and Spurs, they have a really good home game against Brighton, who are conceding a lot of goals. Wolves at home. Then they have a blank in game week 26, followed by a home game against Crystal Palace. Now, looking at those fixtures, it's very, very difficult for me to sit here and say you need to buy a Spurs player because, of course, they don't double and they don't play in game week 26. But this is a player that if you don't own, like myself, he is hurting you every single game week. And it's really difficult to ignore him because he's playing as a number 9 in a really attacking Spurs team. And the next 3 fixtures are all at home against defences that are definitely susceptible to conceding goals. Now, 0.59 expected goals per 90 is fantastic. We need to remember Richarlison is a midfielder on the game, which is just an added bonus. And 0.09 expected assists. Now, I've spoken about this in previous videos. Yes, you can get those rare players that are amazing for XG and amazing for expected assists, but sometimes you don't want your forward to be having huge expected assists because it means that he's getting involved too much in the build-up play. I want my forward being the focal point in that attack, and Richarlison is exactly that because you can see with the big chances, 1.06. Everything is funneling through him in those attacking phases, especially when and just keeping his wingers wide and basically making space for Richarlison in that box. I think Richarlison is a player that is so hard to ignore this game week, but I get it because of the double in 25 and this blank. He's a really difficult player to go for, and unfortunately, I'm going to be avoiding him myself just because I need to prioritise Liverpool and Man City players. However, if you're in a position where you're looking to free hit in game week 26, I think then Richarlison becomes almost an essential player for your FPL teams. You could free hit in game week 26 and just know that you have Richarlison before that and after it once you come out of that free hit. Do I advise a free hit in game week 26? Probably not. I don't think it is the right time to do so. I think we can do it at other weeks. But if your team is full of Liverpool players, Spurs players and Chelsea players, I think then Richarlison becomes an amazing option for your teams if you're free hitting. Unfortunately, if you're not free hitting in game week 26, I think you need to be in a really luxury position where you don't have many players blanking in 26 and you can then afford to bring in Richarlison into your FPL teams. For me, I think I'll just have to grin and bear it and not own him for the next 2 game weeks and just pray that he doesn't score in those weeks. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Now, next up, I want to take a look at some differential forwards that are catching the eye recently that could be really nice enablers in that blank game week 26. So those 2 players are going to be another hat-trick hero in Wolves' Cunha and the 4-man at Man United, Rasmus Højlund. Now, first up, I want to take a look at Cunha because Wolves are in fantastic form right now and Cunha has been amazing FPL value, but not really been that popular in and amongst the community. 5.7 million and 0.34 expected goals per 90. You can't really ask much more than that for somebody at that price range, and 0.19 expected assists. He is doing everything. He does get in amongst the play for Wolves. He isn't like a Richarlison who just stands up top and expects to score the goals. He is actually an all-round forward, which sometimes can be at the detriment of him, but against Chelsea you saw with that hat-trick and also being on penalties, that's just a massive bonus for a player when we are looking at them in FPL. Now, the big chances per 90, 0.46. Not amazing, and it comes back to what I said about he does get involved with the Wolves' attacks, so he doesn't necessarily be the one at the end of everything, but at 5.7 million, he is amazing value. And what I really like about him as well is that he has probably the best fixture in game week 26, which, as I discussed, is a blank game week for Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea and Luton. So you could look to bring in Cunha. While he doesn't double, he will make sure that your team looks decent for that blank game week 26. And I think this is the time to buy him. Brentford at home is a decent fixture. And I even think Spurs away, who are conceding goals, even though they're playing well, is not a bad fixture at all for Wolves, followed by that Sheffield United game. So if you're looking to maybe free up some funds to bring a Kevin De Bruyne into your midfield, I think Cunha is the man if you can get there. Now, another player that I really do like, but doesn't necessarily free up a lot of funds, is going to be Man United's Højlund at 6.9 million. Now, we discussed about having decent players for the blank game week 26, and he comes under that category as well with a Fulham game at home. And prior to that, he also has Luton away in game week 25. Now, again, they don't have a double game week, but I think the fixtures are decent over that period. Villa away, while it doesn't look great, the injury to Ezri Konsa isn't going to benefit Aston Villa defensively, so I do think they could be susceptible in this game. And Højlund is putting up some good numbers of late. These, of course, are looking at them from between game weeks 1 and 23, but 0.33 expected goals per 90 is decent. It's not incredible, but it's good, and the numbers are definitely on the up. And he is getting those big chances in this Man United team at 0.76 per 90. So again, it comes down to what your gut feel is and what kind of budget you do have available. I think Cunha probably does have the better fixtures, and also at that price point, probably the value option. But if you really want to go in on Man United and you think they've taken a turn under Ten Hag, I do think Højlund is a brilliant differential for your teams, especially with that blank game week 26 fixture against Fulham. So those are the differentials that I really do like, and I think you should consider. Obviously, a few weeks ago, I did make the claim of Neil Maupay, and that one came to fruition, so do keep an eye on these two as well. So last up, we need to take a look at the game week 24 predicted points, because this is going to really help us with captaincy decisions going into the weekend. So here are the predicted points for game week 24 at the time of recording. Of course, these can change depending on injury updates and expected minutes. So top of the tree, no surprises, is going to be Erling Haaland at 6.6. And with him playing significant minutes against Brentford, I would expect him to have a long-term kind of start time now over the foreseeable future. And I do think if you own Haaland, he is a very easy captaincy pick. Yes, I know a few people might be worried, and it is worth noting they are the early kickoff on Saturday, so we should get some early team news before the deadline, so make sure you are online over that period. Some differentials outside of Haaland. Trent Alexander-Arnold at 6.2 could be a really nice one. I know a few people moved away from Trent Alexander-Arnold for enabling other moves. If you do own him, he is fantastic for this weekend. Richarlison, the man that is damaging my overall rank, he is also a great option with that favourable fixture this weekend. And a few interesting ones. Doughty popping up at 5.2. Didn't expect that one at all. Also some usual names, somebody like a Watkins, Kevin De Bruyne, and a Phil Foden. But make sure you do check this out. Really important for captaincy this weekend. But for me, Erling Haaland, if you own him, is an obvious captaincy pick unless we do get doubts about him for game time. So that's going to wrap up today's Game Week 24 Top Transfers video. Really hope it's provided some value. Let me know in the comment section who you are bringing in going into the weekend. Are you doubling down on Liverpool and Man City assets? And that just leaves us to say thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you do drop a like and smash the subscribe button. Check out fantasyfootballfix.com. Link is in the bio. And I will see you in the next video. Take care. Cheers.